Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Today we have a brand new set of great stories for you to enjoy. Subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Sit comfortably. Here we go. Watch the toes you step on today, because they might be attached to the butt you have to kiss tomorrow. This is something I was told over and over growing up, and recently saw it firsthand. I went to work for a company in 2014 and worked there for about a year and a half as a web developer. My primary task was to convert a legacy application to newer technology. One of my coworkers actually wrote the application, but he's not much more intelligent than a brick, so he was stuck maintaining his application while the team created the new one. He would take every opportunity he could not to work. Somehow he managed to have a schedule that included a couple of hours drinking at a bar while on the clock. He would wander around the building being as vulgar as he could, pantomiming BJs behind management, asking stupid questions to anyone, and just being as obnoxious as possible. He went to high school with the second in command, so my supervisor was reluctant to write him up, much less fire him. I was going through a stressful time at that point, and my supervisor told me if I had my fill of his crap to just go home for the day. He said he'd rather my productivity suffer a bit than have to replace me because I threw him out of a window or something. Said half in jest, of course. I've never thrown anyone out of a window. Fast forward a couple of months, and he's spotted at the bar across the street with a margarita in hand when he should be working. Someone lets the second in command know, and she suspends him while they investigate his actions. He's summarily fired and can come into the office to get his stuff on a specified day at a specified time. I take that time for a break and step out of the office so I don't have to deal with him. As I'm returning, he's getting in his vehicle. He proceeds to yell that I'm an arrogant a-hole and screams off down the street. I shake my head and chuckle because I figure I'll never see him again. Fast forward to a couple months ago, and I'm at a new company, and I'm at the receptionist desk to book a room for a meeting. I glance down at the sign-in sheet while she's looking for an available room, and I notice a familiar name. I have my annual performance review in 30 minutes. Do I keep my mouth shut or tell my supervisor about it? Review time. I start the review by being upfront about the name I saw and state if that name belongs to that individual and he's here for an interview, they need to end the process on him because I will not work with him again. My supervisor asks for more information, and I give him examples of his vulgarity, incompetence, and lack of work ethic. I get pulled into a meeting with my supervisor's supervisor and asked to repeat what I told him. So I did. As it turns out, he was scheduled to be in the next day for the technical assignment, and if he passed, he would have been hired. Instead, they hired someone else, thanked me for helping them dodge a bullet, and gave me a raise. Sweet, sweet karma. Love a company that takes their employees' opinions and past experiences seriously. Good on them. And our next story. The time I got my manager a promotion, so he quit. There's a lot of background to explain the kind of situation that developed over a decade. A place that was once truly fun to work at and easy to earn a bit of extra overtime became a dog-eat-dog struggle to survive. The low-level peons like me were split between those who felt disenfranchised and hated by the management, and those that were basically looking for an escape route. And that group of snakes who would smile to your face and act sympathetic to your situation before sneaking away to inform the managers of anything they'd learned which might have value. We were in a specific area of the business that was isolated and slowly being replaced by technology. So from over 1,000 in our building, it dropped to just about 250 when I left. Most of this was done through voluntary redundancy, but the managers were given incentive to fire as many as possible to save money on VR, and since manager jobs are also slowly being cut, they were desperate to fire as many as possible, but most were incapable of following procedure. Mike was that intelligent and brutal kind of manager who, like the others, had been promoted into the position, but knowing he wouldn't get trained officially, took it upon himself to become competent. The man had gotten dozens of people fired directly and more indirectly by helping less competent managers follow the correct procedure. A certain quantity of work at a certain level of quality was required, which everyone met. Yet they had a bottom and top 10 list, And if you were on the bottom 10 list, your job was on the line regardless of if you met the basic requirements. Since there was always a bottom 10 by definition, there were always 10 people on the firing line. This might be vague, but it has to be. Mike's team was a sort of clearinghouse for the bottom 10. We were shifted between shifts and teams for various reasons, but what I quickly learned is that somehow the shift's bottom 10 were all on Mike's team. Now, my performance was consistently in the top 10, so I was safe on that count, but my attendance was low due to health issues, and my attitude was really bad. I also learned that the rest of the team was made up of people who weren't low in performance, but had low attendance and attitude problems, just like me, and we all had been on the chopping block by managers who failed to follow procedure. In short, Mike was the executioner of the workforce. The most vulnerable to being fired were shifted around to his team so he could succeed where others had failed. Sooner or later, my time came. My health caused a series of absences while I had hospitalizations, and Mike pounced into action. In the space of a year, he made 7 attempts to fire me, and each time I involved HR who stepped in and protected me. I approached HR to make a case that what was happening was wrong, not just to me, but to everyone. I made the case that the situation of Mike being the executioner created a hostile work environment, and the fact that I had gotten his attempts to fire me thrown out proved that he was not only hostile, but was actively toxic. That was against the law to discriminate on age/disability and a myriad of other arguments. I was told there was nothing they could do. Mike was untouchable and had the full support of the upper management in our building because he was saving a lot of money in voluntary redundancy payouts by firing the vulnerable. Legally, there might be a case, but would have to go through a court system and not through HR unless I had an example of him being hostile and abusive. The person I spoke to was very sympathetic, and he suggested I look into some things related to job opportunities that were coming up. He mentioned that many of them were managerial positions because a new type of roaming manager had been introduced. These were very needed and weren't getting much interest. Think substitute teacher, where a manager gets sent all around the country at the drop of a hat. It didn't occur to me instantly, but weeks later as I sat at work listening to Mike talk about his family, it clicked into place, and my plan began to take form. Instead of making a complaint, I gave a glowing review and had several others do the same. If we couldn't get the man fired for his actions, we could get him promoted into a job that he couldn't take. The managers in our area were not even being considered for transfers because they lacked the training and qualifications to be managers anywhere else. Our reviews might just push him over the line into getting a promotion, and since roaming managers were being sought, the two should dovetail nicely. We didn't give the reviews to our management, but directly higher up the food chain, way above anyone that ever dealt with our area of the business. Each of us mentioned that Mike had done an amazing job at sorting out problems, etc., had great managerial skills, and an in-depth knowledge of procedure. Then we sat back and waited. A few months went by with nothing happening, and I thought the attempt had failed, but then we came into Mike losing his mind. He was shouting at the shift manager, his boss, about how he wasn't being given a choice. Turns out the higher management had gotten our reviews, looked into his record, and decided he was a perfect fit for the roaming manager position, and since they were in the process of getting rid of managers in our area, they insisted that Mike be pushed into it. Mike had, of course, tried to refuse the promotion, as was his right, but the higher management had made it a choice of accept the promotion or be demoted back to peon. Mike had a family and couldn't just uproot them whenever the company needed him elsewhere, and a demotion with a pay cut back into the workforce of people who despised him and that were slowly being culled was just as bad. So he asked for voluntary redundancy instead, and was accepted. His last day, he went berserk, shouting and swearing about how badly the company had treated him after all he had done. I was unfortunately absent for it, but got a play-by-play and loved every second of it. Since I was told explicitly that I couldn't get him punished or fired, I got him a promotion he couldn't accept instead. And our last story. Coworker complains about free pizza. So one of my coworkers is a huge choosing beggar, CB, like aggressively choosy to the point he will bully people who are buying him free things to get exactly what he wants. This normally doesn't affect me, as I've learned to just tell him to F off. Of course, he always complains and pretends like I just attacked him out of nowhere, but that's not the point of this story. Unfortunately, the person who does all the food ordering and general paperwork stuff in our office is a sweet older lady that isn't comfortable telling people no. One day we had pizza for a lunch meeting, and we all realized that the favorite pizza of everyone in the office, which she only ordered one of at the time, she's learned to order more, was obviously different. I forget exactly what got left off, but half of it was not what it normally comes with. I went and talked to the person who ordered it, and she straight up told me that CB had stood by her desk and basically berated her until she changed half of the pizza to be what he wanted because he didn't like some of the topping. He wanted the whole pizza, but thankfully she made him compromise. Ticked me off because my favorite pizza was ruined, and he bullied this woman who we all affectionately call the office mom. But whatever, right? It's free pizza. I'll just get something else and I'll live. The straw that broke the camel's back was when I noticed that he hadn't even touched the pizza. He was eating a different one. I decided to casually ask why he wasn't touching it. Come to find out, he didn't actually want any during that lunch. He knew he wanted something else, but figured he might want some leftovers later in the week, so he had her change the order. So basically, this mother effer bullied a sweet little old lady and changed a pizza order for the one pizza everyone in the office wanted, just on the off chance he might want leftovers later. So, you want to guess what I did? I ate it, all of it. I didn't want more than one piece, but I ate all 6 pieces of half a pizza, so he couldn't have any. And you can bet your buddy complained about it too. I just looked back and was like, "Oh, sorry, did you want some?" during the meeting? Because if I had known you wanted it today, I would have saved you some. He glared at me for about a week, and I felt like I just ate Thanksgiving dinner, but worth it. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.